on Friday, shit absolutely hits the fan. It is one of the more heavy-handed and embarrassing digital media decisions I've seen in my life. This is the reason why the OddsJam role is not on my resume. There's a tweet that's still up from Matt Restiva that's just like, hey, Jeeves, trying to get in touch with you, willing to pay you. And it's like, oh, okay. So you know that you owe me money, and you know that you need my help with something.
Welcome back to the Green Beans Go channel. It's your host, me, and I can say host officially in this video and have it mean something, because in just about an hour, I will be hopping on a call with a guy by the name of Jeeves so that he can tell us the story of the rise and fall of the OddsJam Discord. A few months ago, you may remember I posted a video that detailed some of the red flags as it relates to OddsJam as a company. And after that video was posted, I received more emails and direct messages than I have ever received about any video saying, hey, Green Beans Go, that's a great video, but you've barely scratched the surface. And I talked with a few people who, most of which were not quite comfortable coming out and telling their story for various reasons. But Jeeves, after our call, said, I would love to get on and tell you about my experience working for this company. So the purpose of this video is to let Jeeves tell his story and shed some light on OddsJam and how they may work behind the scenes. And some of you may be asking, Green Beans Go, why the witch hunt? What do you have against OddsJam? In this industry, I think there are a lot of bad actors. There are a lot of people and organizations that make decisions that are only out of selfish intent, not with the best intentions for the average bettor. And OddsJam has repeatedly shown me that they are in this business to make money, period. And so while they may be a tool that you use to make money, I believe that there, like many other things in life, is more to the story with OddsJam, and getting to the bottom of that is the purpose of today's interview. Well, Jeeves, how's it going? How are you this afternoon?
Can't complain, Green. Looking forward to a very fun conversation with a lot of nostalgia built into it.
Yeah, so I want to give you the floor and walk through maybe how you got started with OddsJam, the kind of things that you thought you were going to be doing, the things you ended up doing, and just some of your memories and takeaways from that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny path that got me to like running the OddsJam Discord, which I think when I ran it, it was their fourth or fifth attempt at a Discord. A guy that I'd used to work with at Action Network. My background has put me across all sorts of like gambling jobs. One of them being at the Action Network, and there's a guy I worked with there who landed at OddsJam at some point, and they needed YouTube work done. They had no idea what they were doing on social. Their YouTube was like beyond a mess. It had like some real high hit videos and had a lot of things going for it. It also had like 3 different playlists labeled best bets. So I did probably, it was like not even $1,000 contract. It was like 20 hours of work, cleaning up their YouTube, optimizing some of their thumbnails, just delivering them kind of a best practices document at the end. But because of who I am and because of the work that I had to do on YouTube, I watched all of their like videos as part of this process. And I remember thinking like, wow, this piece of software does exactly what I want it to do. I had developed a few edges before in the past, building like my own models or relying on other folks who had built models and trying to find fun derivations of those. Like I made a bunch of money just steam chasing Counter-Strike bets the year before. But when I found OddsJam, and it was just at that point glorified odds boom, it was just DVig to penny, look at these bets. I remember thinking like they paid me whatever, $700 or $800, whatever money they owed me. And I asked them like, hey, beyond like, let's keep in touch and see if there's work that you want me to do down the line. I'm just going to send you this money straight back to you. What's the biggest discount I can get as to be a subscriber for a year? Because I want to do what you guys are doing now. And so they were very kind at the time. Randall is a Randall actor. This would have been, good question. This would have been like February of 2022. So I remember I basically instantly became a subscriber. I did like a smattering of work for them on their YouTube and then just became not just a subscriber and a consumer, but like a proselytizer. Like it was one of these things where, especially for someone at that point in my life, I had had, 10K up years gambling. I had had some really negative years gambling, and it was very easy for me to see like, oh, this product has a lot of value. And it instantly became how I was betting baseball. Like I remember that year specifically, those first 3 to 6 months, FanDuel strikeout alt totals were just all over the map compared to what everyone else had. And it instantly became one of these things where I'm a social media manager by trade. I do a lot of digital media work. It's not uncommon for me to be glued to my phone for other reasons, but it instantly became like I need to have like if I go to the bodega and get a sandwich, I'm gonna have my phone up on the OddsJam positive EV page because if I find a Luis Castillo over 7.5 strikeouts plus 150. That's going to be 8, 9, 10% expected value. I'm going to hammer that. And for me, hammering at the time was just like, I'm going to put $50 in this. Yay. But I remember it being like, wow, what a great product. What a great tool that I can use. And then over the summer, I gambled on baseball all the time. My burner account on Twitter, which had previously just been for like mashing the retweet button on sponsored posts that I had to put up for work suddenly became like, I'm going to talk to guys that I know use OddsJam, and I'm going to try to figure out how can we massage these filters and like where is the absolute sweet spot. And so that football season just became very profitable. Like for me, I think it was that 2022 I cleared. This is not going to sound like a big number to anybody else in the space, but I cleared basically my rent check. I made like $20,000 that year just following the plus EV page, doing nothing special, not a lot of ARBs, not correlating any parlays, not leveraging anything, no P2s. Like when I got limited, I just went from being, I'm betting $100 on BetMGM. I guess now I'm betting 48.72 on BetMGM. Nothing fancy, nothing sophisticated. And then I think it would have been maybe October or November of 2022. I was still in regular contact with Randall because I was, a power user. They hired somebody who I had worked with at OddsJam by the name of Matt Restivo, and he reached out to me because he saw, I'm in their DMs all the time talking to them, and he's like, "Oh, I know that guy." He reached out to me and expressed an interest in like, well, it looks like you've done some social media work for us before. It looks like you're continuing to use our product and you're a power user and I'm proselytizing the product and our use cases of it on Twitter. Would you ever consider like doing more work for us? And I was like, yeah, dude, for sure. At the time, I was just contracted to do jobs for a few folks across the sports media industry, some of it betting, some of it just pure social media. So I had like hours to sell. And that's kind of the start of how I got involved in the OddsJam Discord.
So you were originally brought on to help them develop a media presence, a YouTube presence, a Twitter presence as they were trying to grow, really as one of the only tools in the space that look like theirs. I know Dark Horse was somewhat relevant, but after Odds Boom went under, it felt like, at least to me as a user of Odds Boom, like, oh, I have to use OddsJam. Like that's what I have to do now because Odds Boom is gone. And it felt like outside of Dark Horse, which was lacking in certain areas, that I was forced into that. And like yourselves, I found a lot of utility in OddsJam in those early days, especially when books were as soft as they were and clueless, maybe is a better word, as they were in 2022 and right around that time.
Clueless is the right word too. One of my favorite use cases of OddsJam from that year, and maybe this dealt into. I remember it being winter of college basketball season, but it was right after they'd put out email alerts, which annoying at large to be like, oh, there's a 5% bet that was up 2 minutes ago. It's gonna be gone by the time I get there. But I remember once I was walking my dog and I got the email alert, like there's an 140% expected value bet, and all it was, this was always the best part of the tool. You just catch when someone's made an idiot level error, and they had hung. I want to say it was like UNC Wilmington, and they'd hung a 6.5 point favorite as a 2-1 underdog money line. So smashed that, smashed the plus 6.5 of the other guys, had the great middle when they won by like 5 or 6. And I just remember it being one of these things where I was like, cool, this is like a cheat code. This is almost like especially compared to like what I used to be doing, where it's, you're filling in numbers into a spreadsheet, you're trying to massage the data to make sure everything makes sense. You're getting CLV on all your bets, and then you're down 10 units at the end of the night. And it's like, all right, wake up again and do that tomorrow, I guess. Going from that, just being able to lock into a 2-screen setup where, I've got Slack for work up here. I've got the OddsJam plus EV screen right here. I can look at both of these simultaneously. When something pops, I can be the first man on board there to go get it. So yeah, like having talked to a bunch of the guys who worked there, was very excited to like get the chance to help them elevate and develop a real media presence. And so the first place that we sought to do that at was Discord. By my understanding, by December of 2022, which is when I think was elevated to like moderator, and they were like, no, this is actually a priority for us. Let's have conversations in the new year. It was like their third or fourth attempt at a Discord server. And it was one of those things where even early days, it was kind of clear, like they know they need to have a Discord server. They don't know why. But the good news was at the time, it was just kind of like what is the goal? What's the message? Whatever. get people into the Discord server, get people talking about OddsJam and using OddsJam tools. And so for me and for my new best friend in the world, a guy out in Arizona by the name of Coochie Mane, that just became our modus operandi. And we pretty quickly developed I don't want to say cult following, but there was definitely like an aspect of like when me and Coochie would start saying something in chat, people would listen. And so we kind of flipped that pretty quickly into that being the sales point for like what we would do in the servers. Me and Kushi developed kind of a strict media plan for them, a big portion of which was education is so important for you guys. Your product is so innovative and so easy to use once you understand how to use it. But for the average American gambler who on a Saturday night at the bar, when he struck out with 3 attractive blonde women, just wants to stand in the corner and make his 4-leg anytime touchdown parlay, they don't know what fair value is. They don't know what expected value is. If you tell them you're betting the Braves or the Royals minus 2.5 plus 380, they're going to tell you, like, you think the Royals are beating the Braves by 3 runs? Like, well, no, but at this price, I do. You're an idiot. Look, they lost by 7. What are you doing? So for us, education became like, okay, that's how we derive value. They had done, like, especially the YouTube work I'd done, they had all of these YouTube videos that were, here's how you use OddsJam, but they're all old. If you watch a live stream of Alex, or at the time they had Matt Modi and John Hyslop and all those guys, if you watch a video of them using the positive expected value page, unless you're watching it live while they're doing it, it is effectively useless. There's no value to be derived in like, oh, well, 3 days ago, UNLV moneyline plus 110 was a great bet. Yeah, thanks. I watched the game too. They won by 11. I get it. So our kind of value proposition to them was, well, we'll stream in your look, we'll moderate your Discord. We'll make sure no one is, posting nudes or links to harmful sites. It's funny you mentioned Dark Horse. One of the first things we did when we got there was we had to undo a lot of the muted words. The words that were muted in that server were like limits, limited, and it's like, okay, people are going to ask that question, and muting the word just kind of means you're going to spell it with a 1 where the I would be. But one of the words that was muted in the server when we got there was horse, not dark horse, just the word horse, because they were trying to defend against people asking about, like, well, dark horse has this as their DVIG model. Why don't you guys?
So was that a red flag to you in any way when you hop in there and you say, okay, they don't want us talking about limits, which at that time were not as big of a deal as they are now, but they were something to keep in mind. Okay, we can't mention Dark Horse. If your product is superior to Dark Horse and you are supposed to be better friendly, wouldn't you want people to have what works best for them? And if that's your product, great. And if that's Dark Horse, we should encourage people to use what tools are best. Like, did that sit odd with you in any way?
I remember thinking, not that it's a red flag. I just remember thinking it was very naive. I remember thinking like, oh, these guys have a problem, and then this is their solution. I can offer you a better solution. I do remember, like, especially by the time we got super into the weeds of like, eventually our live streams became like not pay-per-view events or anything, but it would be like we had to keep nitro pumping the Discord server to allow space for everyone to sit in the voice chat who wanted to. And I mean, we were pretty recurringly, especially for multi-way DVIGs at that point, we were very, very frequently using the Dark Horse odds DVIGger because it was better. But I remember thinking like, I don't think they knew anything I was doing. There were times where, I gave them weekly and bi-weekly reports. And there were times where like there was a day that I think this would have been in like April of 23, like before shit really hit the fan. But it was just like, I don't know, it was some weekday. There's nothing on the board because it's like the NBA slate hasn't had, there's no player props open at 2:00 in the afternoon yet. We were waiting for the golden hour. We weren't going to be betting baseball at that point because that was the year that Major League Baseball made all their rule changes around the size of the bases, the pitch clock, and the only book had adjusted for it was FanDuel. And so people were getting their pants taken off by taking overnight FanDuel lines that were massive outliers compared to Pinnacle and everyone else. And then you'd wake up in the morning and everyone had run towards FanDuel, and it's like, ooh, okay, that might be wrong. But I remember there was one day, I think it was, I've mentioned this twice now on the pod. I'm a big Counter-Strike guy. I'm a big believer in that there's edges to be had in smaller sports. And so I think we had, like, as a community, at this point, we were probably like 12, 14,000 strong in that community. We were just watching like a Counter-Strike tournament playoffs. So we were just like, no, we have a lot of money on mouse right now. we're just going to watch the mouse match. I'll keep flicking back over to the positive expected value screen and showing you, yep, still nothing, guys. But we're just going to be streaming Counter-Strike for an hour and a half today. And somebody reached out, not even one of my bosses, someone reached out and was like, hey, what's going on? I was like, yeah, we're doing a live stream. This is what we have today. In terms of like, did they know what I was doing? I certainly told them. I think a lot of the time it was either in one ear, out the other. There's never that mental hurdle of like, okay, Jeeves has told us this, and that's now what he's executing on. There was a lot of times, and this will come up in the story of how it all went to hell. But there was a lot of times where I would tell someone an important piece of information, and then a week or a month later, they would come to me restating that important piece of information, and my answer would be like, yes, I told you that. You know that. That is what we're doing. So in terms of like a red flag, maybe not a red flag, but I do remember thinking like, okay, well, that's inefficient, or that's like not the correct way to go about this. But for me, it was all about, let's fix this. I'm the guy, they've brought me on board, even in a part-time capacity, because they know they don't have the expertise in this weird cross section of where sports gambling and analytical decisions meet social and meet like a digital presence. So my thought process for the whole time I was doing this for them was just like, they've brought me on board because they know that I know best. I will try, therefore, my hardest to do right by them.
Yeah. And you said 12 to 14,000 at this point. And at the beginning of this, you explained that from your perspective, the goal was to increase the size of the Discord and to grow the brand. So do you remember what it started at versus what it ended at?
I made sure to look at I did the big review of every email that I ever sent to someone with an OddsJam email address. When me and Coochie Mane kind of took over the server as like not full-time mods, but like eventually became one of those things where like my Discord year-end review was like, you spend like 12 hours a day looking at this screen, man. I was like, rookie numbers, got to get those up. It was just under 2K when we took over, and that would have been right around the new year of either like December 22 or January 23. By the time they pulled the plug on it, it had gotten as high as 22,000, and then after the events of late May, it had cratered down to like the high teens. That's actually something that I'm still like very proud of. It's a weird one for me because there's a few jobs that I just like don't put on my resume because I'm not proud of it. This is one of those jobs that I don't put on my resume because like I don't know how to explain. I think I did some really good work. The underlying data suggests I did some really good work. The feedback from the community suggests I did some really good work. But if you talk to the guys that I did the work for, they would suggest that, I'm a pariah to them. I'm certain actually, I want to put this up on like a prediction market. I'm willing to bet that I'm going to get a call from someone at OddsJam within 48 hours after this video goes live.
So if we look from a bird's eye view that your goal was to grow the Discord, get eyes on OddsJam, and by all analytical counts, you did that. You accomplished what was set out. Go ahead, and I know you told me some of these stories when we first chatted, but go ahead and maybe walk through where you feel like the goal was maybe something else, and you started to uncover that things were not what maybe it wasn't as black and white as just growing their tool.
For sure. And I want to take a big step back here. And me and Coochie had basically told them from the start, like, Discord is not, you're not gonna be able to monetize a Discord unless you actually want to monetize the Discord. Like at this point, I think we were right at like the nascent days of like everyone who hits a big parlay on twitter.com has a dub club. But at the time that Coochie and I kind of took the wheel, it was pretty clearly the case that the Discord was only people who had an OddsJam subscription. Because at that point, how else would you have gotten there? Like, who else would have told you, like, no, dude, you got to go just lurk in this Discord. You're going to have $1,000 in your prize pick accounts by the end of the week. So we were pretty, and again, I read back through all my emails today. We were very thorough with our proposal that if the Discord was something they'd really wanted to care about, that there were options to make it a profit center. Now, at the same time, when we talked to them about that, we also kind of had the same, we talked about the flip side of the same coin, which is like, if this is a loss leader for you guys, that's probably fine. Like if you're, they were paying me $2,500 a month. They gave Coochie Man just like a free subscription for a year or two. But from our perspective, it was like, if we can grow you the server, if we can make this server like a destination and a place where if you are beginning your sharp gambling journey, the funnel brings you to here, we're going to translate so many of those into subscribers. So from our perspective, it was we had a number of different methods by which we could make the Discord server, which at the time was becoming like their biggest marketing arm outside of their newly optimized YouTube. And so it would have been the first time that we kind of proposed, hey, like we've noticed there's an influx of users specifically asking for this thing. They had put out their sort of like DFS fantasy optimizer semi recently, and like I had done a lot of like when I was still in beta, I'd done a lot of kind of hyping up that tool for them behind the scenes of being like, hey guys, in today's live stream, it's a Taco Tuesday on Prize Picks. None of you have access to it yet, but I'm going to show you this is what the OddsJam DFS optimizer is going to look like. It'll be released in a few weeks. I'll let you guys know. And when that tool was released, it was released at a $50 per month price point. And that was the first time that I had the community pitchforks out, come from my head. They're like, Jeebs, what the hell, man? I've been a subscriber for X number of years. I love this tool. I'm not paying another $500 a month for something that is quasi what I'm already getting. And so I talked to like, hey, that's good feedback. If I'm the community manager, that's my grenade to throw myself on top of. I went to my bosses and they kind of spun it back around to me and were like, well, we think only about 5% of the people in the Discord have an OddsJam sub. That was very surprising to me. One, because I don't believe that number was an accurate reflection of like maybe they were taking that number from like the full sample of the full population of the Discord, but like if some guy just clicks join Discord, scrolls around twice, and then just mutes it and never comes back to it again, that's not a user. That's a member of the server, but that's not a member of the community. But it also at the same time, it was one of those things where it's like, well, as we've proposed, what if we made this Discord exclusive for people who have an OddsJam sub? If we are so concerned that we're giving away value, that we're giving away plays, that the existence of this server, which again was supposed to be a digital marketing tool for them, if we're so concerned that the value proposition of this Discord is negative, what if we made it so that wouldn't be the case? Like there is a way that we can gatekeep this and make it so it's like actually just a big bonus on the top. Hey, you pay us $100 a month or $500 a month or whatever it was at that point for our tool, and also you get this hyper sharp Discord server because football was over and because baseball hadn't begun yet. Everyone was looking for a new edge, and that was when especially the power users in the server started trying to derive their own edges and starting to use tools that were not necessarily associated with OddsJam. And so we had gone to, me and Kuchi had gone to our bosses and been like, hey, we should gatekeep this now. If you don't want to fully block this off, let's make it free for anyone who has an OddsJam sub, and let's make it $10 or $15 a month for anyone who doesn't. In our mind, that was a very fair and equitable way to hear their concerns, hear what they were saying, and solve that problem. Because again, at this point, none of these were really red flags to us. We were just kind of like, okay, our bosses don't really understand what this tool is here for. They're not great at digital media. That's fine. We're great at digital media. We know what it's here for. We just need to bring them to the well, let them drink. And it turned out that was very much not the case.
Yeah, which is funny to hear that they could have had everything they wanted, it sounded like, or at least a very reasonable compromise. And if you want this to be for publication and marketing, then you keep it open and you let people trickle in and trickle out and see its worth. If you want it to be a tool that makes money, you do that. You price it.
Yeah.
And I think your method of giving it free to subscribers and or paid to non was a great happy medium. And it sounds like they weren't quite sure if they wanted it to be a for-profit enterprise or a marketing enterprise, except I think I know what they deep down wanted it to be, and maybe was the problem overall.
And it's one of these things where it became it became kind of like the beast they couldn't control. Part of that is that they didn't really know what it was. And so for me and Kuchi, the goal had never changed. We'd never been told anything other than we want to grow this server. Cool. Let's do some growth hacks. We had all of our power users, like the guys that we were chatting to every day, we had them constantly flogging on Twitter, like, hey, this parlay was cooked up in the OddsJam Discord. It's a Plus EV Discord. You should go get it. There's this really funny back and forth that these tweets are still up. Rukesh is how we knew him in Discord, but he's now, I think, slightly positive EV. He's the guy with the Mahomes profile picture on Twitter. And he was the first guy among us to really start using data golf for very, very minute, like, player strokes. I'm pretty sure this edge is totally dissolved because we beat some books into literal submission with it, but there's this really funny back and forth where in the time period in late May where things really went to hell and they tried to just exert control that they probably shouldn't have, people on Twitter were like, hang on, you guys just banned people from talking about golf. You're also retweeting Rukesh's 5-leg underdog golf parlay. that has a link to your Discord in it. It was just like there's a huge disconnect between what they wanted the server to be and what it had become. And that disconnect was in no small part because like I just don't think the people that were responsible for handling Coochie and I don't really think they like listened to us or like read our emails. Like I went back through all these emails that we sent like a bi-weekly review. Like there's like half a dozen of these that are just like, here is what the number of subscribers in the Discord was yesterday or last week. Here's what it is today. Here's what that growth looks like. Here's what that growth looks like. Like I put my consultant hat back on and was like, I want to over communicate to these folks exactly what is happening. Because at the same time that I was doing this Discord stuff for them, they had kind of ramped up my role. I was prepared to quit my job to be full-time at OddsJam, I think the day after the national championship game. So that would have been like early April of 2023. And then like something happened. The exact quote that I found in my notes today was that I found a skeleton in the closet. And I was like, oh, okay, bad. But I was also doing a lot of these one-on-one prospective customer education calls, which were awful because either the guy doesn't show up and I've wasted a 15 or 20-minute block of time, or the guy does show up and I can't answer all his questions in 15 or 20 minutes because I got the next guy I got to go to after that. So one of the things me and Coochie had presented to them and proposed was like, hey, we are still streaming the positive expected value page 3 or 4 nights a week in your Discord. You can use that as the education. Like, rather than have me over the course of 4 hours hopefully talk to 6 to 8 guys about how great OddsJam is, how the product works, how they should use it, we could just put all 8 of those guys into one Discord call. Everyone else files in neatly, and then it's the same thing we do every night. Hey guys, it's 6 o'clock. The NBA Golden Hour is about to begin. I'm streaming the positive expected value page, and every time I'm doing that, I'm explaining to you what bets I'm taking, why I'm taking those bets, including why some of these bets that are appearing to be 10, 12, 15% expected value, I might be skipping on, right? I don't actually want to bet OG Anunoby to get a block for the 3rd straight night at 3-1 odds. I'm just not going to do that.
And it's so interesting that it feels like at every turn they lose sight of exactly what they want and they have no way to zoom out and see the big picture. And I think that's what's so not frustrating for me to hear, but it's almost dumbfounding, where it's like, if you can get people to fall in love with your product through the value being provided in this Discord, guess what they're going to do? They're going to renew their subscription.
Yeah.
If people come here and there's no one showing them how to use it, and a lot of people aren't going to take the time even for a 15-minute call. They'd rather get on and see how it works and not feel like it's a one-on-one, maybe an awkward situation.
Yeah, they don't. You're right. You come into my Discord. You don't have to say anything. You just sit here. You sip your little Negroni, and you go, "Okay, we are betting the Mets tomorrow at plus 210 on WinBet. I guess. Sure, fine, whatever."
So was this where you maybe started to say? I guess let me ask this. Was it weird to be hired for a job that they didn't let you even do?
Dude, the funniest part of all this is I'm so glad you mentioned like zoom out. There's a message that I deleted a lot of the screenshots of some of their messages when shit hit the fan because we got very afraid like, oh, there might be a mole in our midst. Like we might, if we have split off to go do our own kind of thing, I don't want there to be a weird scenario where like people are reporting back to me, to my former bosses. But there is a message that survived that purge that is from the head of growth that they hired, who is kind of like the maybe not the villain of the story, but definitely the antagonist, which is like, well, I looked at the Discord for a few minutes today. From a 30,000-foot view, doesn't appear to be a lot of OddsJam. And it's like, well, yeah, that's not what a Discord is. Like, you can't, how do you look at a Discord from a 30,000-foot view? Like, are you just like, I'm just going to click into ShagMe right now. We have some community servers. We have a section of we'd have a section of channels that just says go gamble. We have a section that's just all things DFS. Like from a 30,000-foot view, that looks like a gambling server to me. But the 30,000-foot view isn't going to tell me that the fight night channel is also where we discuss like politics for some reason. Like that's not like, you can't, like a 30,000-foot view of a Discord is effectively useless. It became this funny little back and forth where they hired this guy by the name of Andy HOLSTEN. This is hearsay. I have no reason to believe it. I have no reason to disbelieve it. My understanding and what I was told from a former OddsJam employee is that he is like childhood friends with Alex. His background is as like a private equity investment banking guy. He was hired as head of growth. Now, in my mind, I have had a job title that has been head of growth before. That is growing our handles. That is growing our digital presence. That is growing like our footprint on social, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on all that kind of stuff. I understand now that he was there to grow money. So that one's on me. I misunderstood. But this guy, Andy, there's a German word that I can't pronounce. The translation is the boy who doesn't know what he doesn't know. And it became one of these things where like I was constantly in this weird battle with a guy who was younger than me, definitely book smarter than me, but like did not have anything approaching the expertise that I had. And I was constantly having to explain to him like, hey, not only is that a bad idea and that's not going to work, I'm not going to fucking do that. One task he assigned to me one day was like, can you go through and count all the messages that happen in the server for one day? I was like, oh, yes, I can do that. We actually have an analytics report within Discord. Here you go. On average, over the last 7 days, you can see DFS Kitchen, very popular. The General channel, very popular. The Positive Sharp Bets channel, very popular. Golf, baseball channels, very popular. And he goes, oh, no. I need you to tell me the exact number. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. I've just given you better data than the data I'm going to scrape by hand. And also, every time I start counting the individual messages, someone is going to respond a new message. I'm going to have to restart my count. This is a waste of my time. And I'm only billing you guys 20 hours a week, 25 hours a week. You want me to spend any of that time hand counting messages in a Discord? Are you insane? And the answer was yes, actually, this guy was insane. He became kind of the bane of my existence. He became someone like I had to talk to my therapist about. And he is the person in the end who was the most threatened, or at least saw the least amount of value in the Discord. He is the person who told me that he thought only 5 to 10% of Discord of members of our Discord were OddsJam users. And I don't think challenge is the right word here, but I'm a very data-driven kind of guy. I asked him some version of like, cool, like what's your basis from that? Like is there a sample of data you've analyzed? Like, are you pulling something? And the answer was, it was because no one was signing up for OddsJam with promo code Discord. Because promo code Discord gave you less money off your subscription than promo code any person in the Discord. So what he expected was going to happen was that people would go to the Discord, I guess, see me in my Caesars sponsored bathrobe because I had wagered $1 million the year before, sipping my little mixed drink, and they'd go, wow, this is great. Let me sign up with promo code Discord. When what was really happening is people would come into the server, they would have their questions. Users of the OddsJam product would answer their questions and then say, by the way, if you want to sign up, promo code Rukesh or promo code Copter or promo code OG Weenie will get you more % off than promo code Discord. And for me, like, again, econ student here, that makes sense. I would much rather have a human experience with somebody and then get more money off than just blindly take a promo code for a product I don't know how it works. Mr. HOLSTEN disagreed. He thought that was something that was a problem. And so that kind of became the genesis of why he wanted to shut the Discord down, is he thought it was giving away value. There was one of the messages that I saw come up yesterday was like, Dinger Tuesday, RIP. I would always take 15 Dinger Tuesday, 16 if there was a doubleheader on that Tuesday. I would always just take those straight from the Plus EV page throughout the course of the day. And because that was such a big edge, I was actually one that I wasn't happy to publicize. So what I would usually do is I would just, I tell people we had a specific channel for Dinger Tuesday that had like the home run bot plugged into it. It was awesome. It was a great sweat, once a week. But what I would tell people every day is like, dude, just like remove all filters on the OddsJam Plus EV page. Find guys like we got in a big argument, me and Rukesh, once about like, I don't think these bets actually are plus EV because of the long shot theory. And I was like, I don't think it matters. I think you just need to get the best price on a guy to hit a home run and then hope other guys hit home runs. That promo was so plus EV that like you almost could not lose money doing it. But so, I would just take some guys to hit a home run over the course of the day. And then before the game started, I would be like, for the record, these are the 15 guys, 16 guys, there's a doubleheader that I'm on today. All bets taken from the OddsJam Plus EV page. I think these prices are gone. And at one point, he like screenshot that post, was like, this isn't good enough. You're giving away plays. There's no mention of OddsJam here. And it's like, do you want me, like, I think the people in the Discord server know that Jeeves McGee, who was, I think at that point, it was Jeeves McGee, parenthetical OddsJam. I think the implication here is that I am using your product the way that I use it publicly 4 nights a week in your Discord server. It was just one of these things where it's like, I'm very confused as to what he thought was happening. But ultimately, it turns out so was he. One of the things I mentioned earlier is that after the Super Bowl, but before baseball season started, the power users of the server became obsessed with like, we got to find even more edges. So like some of those edges were really funny. We bet a lot of cornhole on Prize Picks that summer. Awesome. OddsJam did not offer cornhole. That was an in-house edge. That was some guy who went and said like, hey, actually, I am a big fan of the pro cornhole scene. These are just my personal picks, but I think we can do something with this. There was guys in the DFS channels who would just have these very elaborate charts, all derived off the, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Poisson distribution, and would just like, there was a weekend where it's like, we have probably more money than anyone at Prize Picks is comfortable with on cornhole combos. I believe it's the OddsJam Discord, and specifically guys like Copter and Osama bin Lifton and Rukesh, who derived the individual strokes edge via data golf that burned some books, and including I think we got like the Tweety app shut down just by virtue of like we just killed them one like round one. Like all of that was like these guys, like there were these power users who just became like edge hunters. And rather than let all these people walk into their own wilderness, it was like, well, actually, if my bosses don't want this to be a paid server that makes them money, I'll just clear it with them. Hey guys, does anyone have a problem if I set up a specific golf channel in the Discord? It would be for our power users to discuss the edges they have derived betting golf. I think a lot of that comes from the data golf tool, but at the moment, right now it's just happening in like general chat and no one's happy with that. Baseball season starts. Our best friend Prezzola comes back from like a 3-week vacation in Italy and says, I have developed my model for yes, no, run first inning. I have beaten Pinnacle with this model the last 3 years. Specifically, what I want y'all's help with this year is I think we can beat books betting first inning money lines. And so that became the MILF model. MILF because money inning line first is much funnier than Fimmel. But it became a daily task in the server where it would be like at the MILF tag, Caesars and WinBet have opened their first inning money lines. Go, go, go. And it would just be, hey, there's a giant elaborate Google Doc pinned into the baseball channel of the server. Everyone grab a shovel. Like go through and manually scrape the lines off WinBet and Caesars, fill out the document, and then, oh, look, we think we have an 18% edge on the Rockies at home to the Braves to win the first inning. And so then what we would do is stream the first inning on MLB, the at-bat app, in the server. And it is it's the most fun I've ever had on a sweat. Is like, okay, it's 4:09 p.m. on a Tuesday. The Rockies just need to not concede a run in the top half of the inning, and we are good to go, baby. And it's a 15-minute sweat, and we all just sit there in the server just watching like the quad box on MLB.TV together, and it'd be like, all right, boys, we won $800. I'll see everyone at 7:10 for the next slate of games. And so the server became very, very dynamic. It became very educational. It became very about like, no, actually, we are all here together to beat the books. The incubator of talent and education and information that they had was unlike anything I have seen before or seen since. It was not your standard dub club, here's a bunch of parlays. It's not even similar to like a lot of the WAP stuff that like all the plus EV guys went to do, where it's like, hey, we're just going to try to hammer NFL correlation and like NBA playoff negative correlation parlays. It was purely a server that was like, we are all here grinding together to try to beat the books. I thought that was what they wanted. It was certainly working in terms of a growth tactic. Like we were certainly ramping up like we got very, very close to 25,000 users after like less than 6 months on the job. But it turned out, yeah, they did not want a robust marketing arm if it was not 100% fanatically aligned to OddsJam and the OddsJam products, including in places where like gaps were filled in from the OddsJam product. Like it is one of these things where the day that shit hit the fan and I got 25 Slack pings from people at OddsJam on my day off, it was like, people are talking about data golf on the Golf Channel. Yeah, you guys don't offer any golf. I told you that's what they would be talking about when we made a designated, like, hey, only keep golf chat in here, okay? This is my compromise to you guys as users. You can talk about golf in the golf. If I hear you talking about it somewhere else, I'm going to be really mad at you. There are, like, I would love to know the number of people who hit a correlated strokes slip on Underdog or Prize Picks and then immediately use that money to buy an OddsJam subscription, because I'm willing to bet it's dozens and dozens and dozens of people. Because the brand affinity in that server was so high. Like, because me and Coochie were so good at our jobs, and because I am such a charismatic young man and all that nonsense, like, it was one of these things where people were, like, in love with the OddsJam product, even when it wasn't doing all the hard work for them. They were just so in love with the community and so in love with the idea that there was this little hub of information and excellence they could go to become a better gambler. In the end, it's one of, they just didn't want that. In the end, it's one of these things where they did not see the value prop in that.
Yeah, and I'll let you get to the end of
Yeah.
what caused it all to blow up. But I think what's interesting about all of that is, again, the lack of foresight to say, hey, we could make our product better by doing for a community of sports bettors what would help them win
Yeah.
more. Is golf something we need to look at? How can we look at that? Like, in a way, it's almost like you can tell, and not saying that all of the people who work at OddsJam aren't sports guys deep down, but sometimes I feel like they're a little more business and finance focused. And like,
Yeah.
you tell you tell anybody in the sports world that there's an edge that they don't know about. The number one goal is to find out how to get the edge and then bet it for as much money as possible while it's still alive. And it's like, if OddsJam had any foresight, they would have said, wow, all these people are winning money doing these things. How can we give
How can
our
we help them?
product a
Yeah.
boost so that we can offer that to people and become this mega site? And
Because like the edges that they like the OddsJam edges were huge. Like I made 20 grand. This would have been January and February of 2023, just betting the win bet ladders on NBA totals, where OddsJam as a tool was perfect for this. They moved from Denver -6 to Denver -7, both at -110. They just moved the main line. OddsJam would show you within 15 seconds, hey, they have forgotten to update the alt lines. Go get them. And so, like, every day for like 6 weeks during basketball season, it got, again, it's an edge. It's not going to last forever. It got patched at the All-Star break. But every day for 6 weeks, I would just have like, yeah, I got the Kings +4.5 tonight, and 3.5, and 2.5, and 1.5, and -1.5, and -2.5, and -3.5. I just kind of need them to keep it close. And all of those bets were just fantastic expected value. And it's just one of these things where, like, the product was so good already. All they kind of needed was like to stay the course and maybe like not shoot themselves in the foot. And unfortunately, I won't pretend to know what their financial status was at the time. I can tell you, I went back through the origins of my private server today and last night, and what 2023 Jeeves McGee was saying to his inner circle the whole time was, I think something has happened to them. Like, I think they have made a bad call. I think they've made a dice roll that hasn't worked out. I don't know if they're running out of money. I don't know if they ever had a Series A or Series B, but I don't know if it's like an early investor has told them they have to sell now. I don't know what this aforementioned skeleton in the closet is. I can only assume that it's like they were paying somebody too much money to do a job he wasn't qualified for. But I do know it's one of these things that the red lights started blaring for me when they, in back-to-back weeks, fired the head of marketing, and then they sacked off Matt Modi as they were going heavy pivot to their affiliate marketing model, which the same guy, Andy HOLSTEN, was furious with me during the affiliate marketing model because he's like, Connor, none of your power users have emailed me about getting involved. And I was like, yeah, man, like, it's the same reason that my friends don't want to get an OddsJam sub and gamble all day. Like, I can bring the horse to water. I can't make him play a plus EV bet on the Royals. I can't make these guys text you and be like, I want to shill OddsJam on Twitter for 15% of, like, it's, yeah, man, like, it's, some of these guys are very happy just using your product to grind out $50,000 to $150,000 a year. I don't know if you can make them engage in your little scheme here.
yeah, and not that people were so worried about edges being leaked or lines moving faster back then, especially compared to now, but like, even that would be something that they should have had in the back of their mind, that the
Yeah.
more the better we get, the better the books get, which I think
Yeah.
is what we have seen. And like, books at that time probably knew about the existence of these tools, but they definitely know about the existence of these tools now.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about Optic Odds and OddsJam operating in the same vein,
Yeah.
and like, it's out there in front of you. So if you want to walk through just like the end,
Yeah.
what the climax is, and then maybe the falling out, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, this will be one. We'll put it in the YouTube description. If you just want to hear Jeeves McGee give his side of the story 2.5 years later, skip to minute mark X. famously in the OddsJam server, I was off one weekday a week, and whichever it was usually Tuesday or Wednesday, and I would always change my screen name in the server to from Jeeves McGee parenthetical OddsJam to Jeeves McGee off on Wednesdays. And there was one day in late May, and this was after like a few things had come to a head, like the weird. Oh man, I just remembered this. Okay, the weirdest part of the story is that it starts with I would bill them monthly. I would just send them an invoice for here's the money that you guys owe me as my wage. And then as the server continued to grow, we had a few times where people would be locked out of the voice chat because we hadn't boosted the server to like level 7 or whatever to get unlimited seats into the voice chat.
And
So me and
weren't you paying for their nitro? Like they didn't
so
reimburse you for
I
nitro?
so the way this all starts is fucking insane. Where I send them an invoice, they don't pay it for several weeks. This Andy guy starts being very persnickety about something he has unfortunately no expertise on. And then I have to press them to be like, hey, by the way, you guys owe me for last month. I'm going to send you this month's as well, but you guys owe me for last month's too. Can we get both these cleared up? And I'm paid out for the first month for everything except the nitro boost. I've sent them a bill for call it $2,510, and they've paid me $2,500. Weird. This is around the time that they've sacked off the head of marketing, that this Andy guy is asking me to hand count messages in a Discord server with 20,000 people in it. So I basically just say like, okay, can I get this paid? And I never get an answer. So I don't let it lapse, but I move the boost from their server that I'm managing to my own personal server. Because at this point, Coochie is every red flag is blaring for poor Coochie man, and he's telling me like I am building us a backup, like I am building us a lifeboat. I personally am making too much money to let all this go away if this nebulous third party that's suddenly not paying us pulls the plug on it. So for some reason, as this is happening, I pull the boost from the server. My name previously, which was like the big shade of pink for Nitro Boost, is supposed to go to the big shade of gold for moderator. They've taken away my, strictly speaking, mod powers. They are not savvy enough and they're not online enough to realize and learn. Months and months prior, when I was the head moderator for the 20,000 person OddsJam Discord server, I had made my own Jeeves McGee role that gave me specific powers to test audio and video through StreamYard within their server. Like I had, and I gave it to my wife as well, so I could test on 2 different computers to make sure, like, am I coming through clean? Are the overlays like I'm a social guy and I work in digital media. I kind of wanted my little dumb late night talk show to look cool. So within the server itself, there suddenly is this rumor that Jeeves McGee has gotten fired. And I have to dispel this rumor a few times. There's a few times where I'm like, no, guys, sorry, the name is White, but like I'm still here. But this rumor persists and persists and persists. And it gets to the point where, like, at some point, some random night, somebody from OddsJam reaches out to me and is like, why are people saying that you've been fired? I'm like, I don't know, but you guys have taken away my mod privileges. There are things that I now can't do within your server that you need me to do. Someone promises me they'll handle this. They never handle this. So I think it's like a Wednesday, maybe the 23rd, 24th of May. I went back through some of the sacred texts last night. I literally am going, like, I'm taking the subway with my wife and my dog to Brooklyn to do dog training at like a big open green park. We live in Manhattan. We don't have any of those around here. So like my phone is off. I'm not working the podcasts that I work professionally. I'm not working for OddsJam. I'm not even going to place many bets that day. I think I've got some hunch bets on like the Champions League slate that afternoon, but otherwise this is a Jeeves McGee is off on Wednesday's day. And so I go and I walk the dog, and we teach him how to sit and stay and lie down and all that good stuff. We take an Uber back to Manhattan, and I do just pop open my phone, and I've got like a ton of messages in the OddsJam Slack, like their professional Slack. I scroll through some of them. It's just like Andy is just like looking at the Discord and is just unhappy that some people are not as in love with OddsJam as he is. So I try to massage his beliefs, and I'm just like, hey man, like it's 20,000 people in here. Not 100% of them are going to be 100% gung ho about your product 100% of the time. A recurring issue for these guys is that they had like very thin skin. Like if anyone said anything negative about the product, they wanted their head on a pike. So I wrap up some little tasks for them. I shoot my bosses a note that is just like, hey, one day early this week, I have well surpassed 25 hours for you. I had to work today on my day off. I've got a concert late tonight. I was working a very high profile podcast at the time as well as my day job. So it's like, hey, Thursday, I'm not gonna be on for you guys. My week for you starts on Friday for some reason. Let's talk Friday, whatever you guys need again. And then I go out to a concert that night. I go out, I have a lovely dinner, I get some tacos, I get a margarita. My boss calls me at the taco shop. I watch it, let it go to voicemail. Not whatever this is, man. You're not calling me at 7:30 on my day off. I go to the concert. I have a great time. I come home, and it's the meme of SpongeBob and Patrick with Bikini Bottom behind them on fire. Just we did it. We saved the city. I have 25 ping notes in OddsJam Slack, all of them from Andy. It's 12 DMs and 13 pings in the Discord Slack, and they are all just like the most. It's a combination of just like some of the most minute errors or bad things, and like, oh, he's just woken up to the fact that like, yeah, people in the DFS channels are not exclusively using your $50 a month DFS screen. They have actually derived their own edges, and they are working together as a community to maximize those edges. He sent me this insane note at like 1:30 in the morning or something. It's just like, why are so many people in the golf channel talking about data golf? Landy, that's where people talk about data golf. Like, you're right. In retrospect and in hindsight, even though I got explicit permission to do that, I can see why they would be upset that there would be a channel in their Discord server that's openly talking about how good a different product is. Now, in my mind, and in Kuchi's mind, and in the community's mind, those are not competing products. Those are supplementary products. You use OddsJam to go and hit the win bet ladders and the incorrect stale lines and XYZ, you know, whatever it is that you're using OddsJam for, your NBA Golden Hour player props. And we use data golf to bet on golf because OddsJam does not support golf at this point in time. And he does not see it this way. So I am like home from a concert. It's midnight. I have this massive pile of shit on my desk. And me and Coochie just have to get on a quick little call. All right, brother, what are we gonna do? We have we start going through the logs, and it is just person after person getting banned. It is just like every power user getting banned. I clipped this one last night. I'm gonna see if I can find it. I even said, this is, I think, where I'll start my oral history tomorrow night at. Also, this is May 24th at 10:37 p.m. One of my power users just says, OddsJam strategy. What if we ban all the power users of our service in one night? And I'm going through the log with Coochie, who I'm trying to get this guy a seat at my wedding. I've never met him in person, but that's how much me and this guy are working together. And it's like every person we know by name has been banned. Some guys have been banned multiple times, which I think is funny. We're looking through it, and the reasons they're getting banned are why are people Andy's asking me why are people talking about betting first inning money lines? We don't support that. And it's yeah, we have a group of sharp gamblers in our sharp gambling server that have derived a model free of any cost to you that is giving people an edge on the first inning of a baseball game. Again, they are winning these bets and then buying your product because they associate this community with your product. So me and Coochie put our heads together and we make a call. And ultimately, I don't think it's the wrong call, but it was a very incendiary call. We delete the baseball channel and the golf channel because people are getting banned for walking into a death trap, like a bear trap. People are walking into the golf channel asking hey, when do round one bets come out? And just getting auto banned for that. That's not how I manage communities. I don't ever want, I don't want to ban people from a community. Obviously, you have to sometimes. I was an RA in college. Sometimes you got to write up the guy who's drunk and throwing up all over himself. But I remember just walking home on my phone and being this is not what happens on my day off. Usually what happens on my day off is nothing. I send them a note overnight yo, I've cleaned up some of the messes. Let's talk on Friday. On Friday, shit absolutely hits the fan on Thursday, shit absolutely hits the fan because unbeknownst to me, the reason they've taken away my mod credentials is they want mods that are even more deferential to OddsJam. So overnight, having banned dozens of power users and beloved voices in the community and people who have not just made the community money, but made OddsJam money by virtue of making that community money, they just immediately airdrop in 3 to 6 new mods, none of whom have any community management experience. No one who has social or digital marketing experience. These are just some guys they have found on twitter.com who will shill for OddsJam. It is one of the more heavy-handed and embarrassing digital media decisions I've seen in my life. Like, this is the one where this is the reason why the OddsJam role is not on my resume, is like, you have taken a community that you have just sundered, and then you've given them 3 new patsies to yell about. So for a several day period, it is all hands on deck at OddsJam to try to put out the fire in their Discord. Unfortunately, it's a fire they've lit themselves. I also, like, I'm working on my big podcast that day. We have a very high profile guest. The podcast I'm working on at the time is a very high profile young man. I am doing that. I am doing my day job today. These guys had the chance to hire me full time. I don't know if they couldn't afford it or didn't want to. I don't care anymore. I have to work on my podcast that day. So yeah, like, the folks at OddsJam, I get texts, I get emails, I get Slacks, I get calls. At one point, there was a tweet that is still up from Matt Restivo where he tags me on, because at this point they also still owe me, I think, 6 weeks' wages. Like, they've not paid out all of my invoices. There's a tweet that's still up from Matt Restivo that's just like, "Hey Jeeves, trying to get in touch with you, willing to pay you." And it's like, oh, okay, so you know that you owe me money, and you know that you need my help with something. So because of who I am as a person, I take the meeting with them on Friday, where I assume that I'm just going to get fired and blamed for everything. And it's actually a very constructive meeting. It's a meeting where we come up, I explain, like, well, guys, like, I walked back into my job on my day off, and you guys had taken a blowtorch to everything that I've spent the last 6 months building for you without really consulting me either. There are easier ways to do this than to just, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Let's not go out and buy a nail gun if that's going to be our modus operandi. So I walk into what I thought was going to be a "Jeeves, you're fired and you're an idiot, fuck you" meeting. And it's actually a meeting where there is a lot of positive conversation. There's a lot of, like, solutions being offered. And the main solution we come up with is, let's hold a town hall. Let's apologize to the community for the way we treated them, and let's lay out a plan and a path forward. And that town hall is the single most embarrassing thing that I've ever had to do professionally. And I have worked some shit jobs. I've gotten yelled at by clients who are not better than me or not smarter than me. It is the single most head in hand things I have ever experienced, where I very graciously, very maturely just follow the sword. I take full responsibility. I just say, I do not present the side of the story of, like, well, this idiot young man who just took matters into his own hands created this big mess. I just say, hey guys, on my day off, I noticed that power users and beloved members of this community were getting banned for things that previously had been A-okay. I made the decision to try to prevent that from happening by deleting the baseball channel, by deleting the golf channel. I apologize that that created more problems than it solved. I fully fall on the sword. Unfortunately, while I am being gracious and being apologetic, the member of OddsJam's leadership board who is on the call is not doing that. The direct quote at one point is, "I don't care if you guys like us. I just care that your credit card swipes at the end of the month." So that becomes a very funny joke for us for several days. There's a channel in my private server now that is still just monthly swipes, and that is where we pool resources.
So he spoke up and said this at the town hall.
He speaks up and says this at the town hall. The direct quote is that he doesn't care if anyone likes OddsJam. He just cares that their credit card swipes at the end of the month.
And there it is.
Yeah. So I took a phone call with him afterwards. I expressed some regrets for the way the meeting had gone. On Monday, I called him back, and we both agreed I had no interest in continuing to run this skeleton server that's a shell of its former self. He agreed that the actual OddsJam people had not done a good job of keeping that server pro OddsJam, and it had become very much like the Jeeves and Coochie plus EV server. We agreed to very kindly go our separate ways, and we did so. I've talked to him a few times in the past since then. There was a very funny moment where, after just being an uncontracted contractor for 6 months, like over the summer, after we agreed to go our separate ways in late May, 2-3 months later, he was like, "Can I get you to sign a backdated contract that says that you can't work for anyone else in the space?" And I said, "I'm not going to sign that. Thank you, though. I won't be signing that." Yeah, it's genuinely, it's one of my biggest regrets in life, is that I did not put my foot down and say, like, "Hey, I'm so sorry that you've hired your best friend as an investment banker to try to make you guys more money. You guys do not understand what you have in your hands here. You guys have something completely unique that nobody else has. I don't think you should scrap your whole product or massage the whole product to fit what this server is looking for, but this server is a huge huge marketing arm for you guys. It can be a huge profit center for you guys. It can also be a very small loss leader for you guys that develops massive brand affinity, that develops massive education about your product, that delivers a like I don't know, man. Like me and Coochie run Shag Me now. That's a lot of fun. We have what does this number say? We have 68 people in that server. Like and I still sometimes like I'm not a big gambler anymore. The new tax laws that are coming into effect in 2026 have scared me off enough. I now work professionally and like as a gambling manager for certain brands. I've made my money. I'm at peace with it, but I still hang out in my own personal gambling server sometimes just to talk to these sharps and just to get their opinions on things. It's made me better at my job, and I know for a fact that there are tons of people who got their start in the OddsJam plus EV server and are now like full-time sharp gamblers. And they had this tool, they had this resource, they had this incubator in the palm of their hand, and they didn't know what to do with it, and they were too scared of it, and they just decided it was not worth it anymore.
And they are going to sell for 160 million. So maybe all is well for them,
Yeah,
right?
all is well that ends well. Yeah,
Which is a sad thing when the villain wins the story, and maybe there's still more to come. But
yeah,
not that they're necessarily the villain, and maybe that's too harsh. But I I think your sentiments, as well as what I've heard, there tends to be this common theme that they have their eyes on that credit card swiping at the end of the month, and they don't care if they could get more credit, which is like ironic that if they were a
yeah,
little had a little more foresight, it might be more plus EV for them. They care about their money in the short term, and it's like
yeah,
if they could think about protecting the image and making the center of their product, which is what they I think try to market. I
yeah,
think they maybe could have had more money in the long run. So it's
yeah.
a bit ironic that a plus EV company can't see that edge
Yeah.
that they might have.
It makes me so sad that me and Coochie, like every day for 6 months, we're telling them like you can make money off this and this alone, and also this is making money for you. Like in my mind, this was just a self fulfilling cycle of like person gets interested in Odds Jam, goes to the Discord, makes me and Coochie look good. That person understands the product better because of what me and Coochie are doing, gets an Odds Jam subscription. Odds Jam looks good and makes money. This better, who now has this endless resource and this wonderfully calibrated product, also makes money. Oh, look, everybody wins. We actually are sticking it to the sports books. It makes me sad in many ways. It makes me sad. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Right. I know. But it's cool that you have that experience, and I bet professionally and personally it helped you learn a lot. So I
Okay.
guess we'll end with this. As somebody who is still in the industry, it sounds like you do some work within the gambling and media industry. For people maybe like myself, but even for sports bettors, I find it difficult to really rest on the fact that this is an ethical space. I struggle with
Yeah.
trying to do what is right in an industry that does not prioritize that ever. So, if you have any advice as someone who is successful in this industry, what would you say you either learned from this or have learned in your professional career related to this industry?
Yeah. I think this is gonna sound so corny. I think it's all about the community and it's all about who you know. I'm really blessed right now to have this group of 60 some odd sharps who everyone wished me well on my wedding day and they gave me great recs for dinners in Spain on my honeymoon. But also they'll just ping me. You know, they know that I'm all of my wagers are now offshore. They will ping me if there's a great bet up on Bet Online or Bookmaker that, you know, let's Jeeves can go hit that. Jeeves is limited to death on FanDuel and DraftKings and all the others right now, but Jeeves can go out and hit this. Make your money, and then if you can get out, just get out. Don't grind on this forever. There's no need to do that. If you can make, if you OG Weenie, if you're listening to this, go get a girlfriend. Go take one night off Kalshi and go take a woman out for a nice restaurant dinner.
I hear you loud and clear. As I'm in this industry full time, my joy comes from meeting people like you and talking about the industry more so than hitting a plus 200 line on a book that's too slow to move. So, uh, in some ways, I'm a little worn out on the betting side of things, but I still think this industry needs to be discussed in matters that are deeper than just plus EV. So I appreciate your time, Jeebs, and if you've got nothing else to add, we'll end it up today. But I appreciate you coming on here and telling about your experience.
And I appreciate you giving me my little platform to soapbox here. If anyone from the old OddsJam Plus EV Discord server is watching this, just know I'm still out there thinking about you. Be safe, stay Plus EV.
Thanks, guys.